Non-rockabotus must stop. I don't want to rock the boat. I want to sink it.
Are you going to bark all day, little doggy, or are you going to bite?
Brett,
delusional. I love you, Jeff.
Delusional, yeah. Delusional's okay in your worldview. I'm an animal. You don't chastise chickens for being delusional. You don't chastise pigs for being delusional. So you calling me delusional using your worldview is perfectly okay. It doesn't really hurt. She hung up on me.
What?
Desperate times call for faithful men and not for careful men. The careful men come later and write the biographies of the faithful men, lauding them for their courage.
Go into all the world and make disciples. Not go into the world and make buddies. Not to make brosives.
Right.
Don't go into the world and make homies.
Right.
Disciples.
I got a bit of a jiggle neck. That's a joke, Pastor.
When we have the real message of truth, we cannot let somebody say they're speaking truth when they're not.
Take an amazing journey to a place that will blow your mind and move your heart so you will never be the same again.
He answered, "Have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female? And said, therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh." That's Matthew 19, guys. Matthew chapter 19. That was the Lord Jesus. That was his perspective on men, women, creation, male, female. It's apparently not very popular in 21st century to think like Jesus.
No.
About body parts and gender and, well, basically, science. You could say Jesus or you could say science.
It's science.
It's science. Hey, I'm Jeff Durbin, the Coleman Ninja. That's Luke the Bear right there.
And you're alive.
I am alive. We had to field, Luke had to field phone calls today from, I guess, apparently across the country. Someone had sent a message off to a pro-life organization saying that I had died.
Yeah. Still not sure where that came from.
No.
Haven't traced it all the way back yet.
So, sorry to disappoint, but I'm still here. All right, so hey, apologiastudios.com is where you guys go to get more. APOLOGIA studios.com. Hey, and just, I want to get through this quick because our guest today has limited time with us. But just a forewarning, we don't know what the future holds. And of course, y'all know we believe in the victory of the Messiah's kingdom. However, we might have a little sliver of time and moment where we're at, where things get pretty rough for us. And so remember that website name, apologiastudios.com, because there's no guarantee that we'll be on Facebook or YouTube for very long, especially with episodes like this one. So y'all saw the title of today's show. It is Bathrooms, Man Parts, and Lady Bits. Bathrooms, Man Parts, and Lady Bits. All right, so I'm going to put this up here. This is from an old movie. It's from when I was a teenager. It's definitely a 90s film. This is sage wisdom. There's very, very good wisdom right here from this child, and I wanted y'all to see it.
Now, Miss O'Hara is going to talk to you about something very important. So I want you to pay real attention to what she has to say, okay? Remember, no fear.
Thanks. Yeah?
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Well, you taught them the basics.
The basics! The basics, and that's good because you would think that those are the basics. And the amazing thing about that is that was actually I'm pretty sure about that. That's the 90s, so it doesn't take very long for a culture to decide that that's not the basics.
20,
30
years.
So I'm going as fast as I can, and I'm going to show you all this controversial 22-second commercial, which caused the controversy that we're going to be talking about today between Christchurch, New St. Andrews, and City of Moscow, the mayor of Moscow. So here we go. This is the controversial, which you haven't seen yet. You haven't seen this commercial yet.
No,
22
I haven't.
seconds. Not much to it, but it seems simple enough. That's a great commercial.
I love the zipper song.
It's a great commercial. There's a the amazing thing about that is that there's a ginormous man and a ginormous woman on the bathrooms.
doors.
Huge.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not on the door. It's man and then woman, right? And then they go into their respective spaces wearing actually similar clothing.
Oh.
So we're going to talk to Doug Wilson about it. Doug, welcome to Apologia Radio. Glad to have you on today, brother.
Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. I know your time is short. So 22-second commercial. It seems obvious enough. Men, women, and there's even a dress in the symbol. But the mayor of Moscow did a public post in City of Moscow's Facebook platform and talked about the fact that he's proud to serve as mayor of Moscow, culturally diverse, welcoming community, very welcoming. And he says, I steadfastly support the person's right to think differently than I do.
Huh.
Except you, Doug. Apparently.
Apparently, yes.
And go ahead.
Accept people's right to think differently, but there are limits.
There's definitely limits. Yeah, there always is. And it's as you always say, Doug. I've used it a lot since you taught it to me. It's not a question of whether we're going to have a law that governs us, but which law, and whether we're going to have a God, but which God. And so you can talk about tolerance and all the rest, but at some point, people are going to protect their creeds and their confessions and their dogma.
That's right.
So Doug, talk to us about City of Moscow and the mayor's response to your commercial.
Yeah, the irony of this is that we made this ad, and the ad was a sticky. It went places. It's over 330,000 views so far. So it was an ad whose time had come. Right?
Apparently, yes.
So it was an effective sticky ad that way. Well, it really took off, and a bunch of our local intoleristas were apparently upset by it, and a number of them made counter ads or parody. You know, they tried filming the same public bathroom, doing different things, and apparently got to the mayor. The mayor issued a declaration of inclusion and tolerance. Well, the thing that is striking, as I said in my blog post responding to this, that bathroom, which is right off of Friendship Square in Moscow and is right next door to New St. Andrews College. Right? Yes. So it's right there. Well, that bathroom is very new. It was just built within the last year or so. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's maybe a couple of years old. So it's a very new bathroom, and it was built under Mayor Lambert's tenure during his watch. So they built this little hate space, this little hot, hate spot with sex segregated bathrooms where it's very clear the men go over here and the women go over here.
Right.
And then we made a commercial which showed a man going into his assigned space, assigned to him by Mayor Lambert, and the woman goes into the space assigned to her by Mayor Lambert, and then he attacks us for not being inclusive.
That's right. That's right. It's the thing that boggles my mind is it seems so simple, and it's such a convoluted, contradictory world that we're living in right now. I can't even believe that you're having this debate, Doug.
I know.
Yeah.
My grandson wrote to the mayor and told him basically that you're being inclusive in a way that excludes every major world religion.
Yes. Yes.
Right. What your idea of inclusive is simply North American secularists.
Yes.
And if it fits within that little tiny space, then you want to include it. If it doesn't, you won't.
Right. He says this, Doug. He says, in Moscow, we are a community of acceptance and inclusiveness for all. The words for all are there. He says, our public policies support this philosophy, and we openly promote our community's social and cultural diversity as a wonderful and invaluable asset. All this is said in the space where it's attacking the ad and the Christian culture that accepts male and female. So the truth is it's not for all and it's not everyone's cultural diversity.
Right.
It's secular humanist diversity claims, right? And it's we don't accept Christian culture.
Right. And that's the secularist humanist dilemma, because every religion, the deity must be one, basically.
Right.
Ultimately. And if demos, the people, if humanity is the deity, then humanity must be one. And so that's the decree. That's the dogma that goes out. We are all one. Well, what do you do with the people who say, no, we're not?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, you've got to shut those guys up.
Yep.
Because they're disrupting the party. So if we want to continue to say humanity is all one, we're all the same family of man, then you cannot tolerate the people who are maintaining that there's the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent. Right?
Yes, that's a powerful thought. Very, very good. And so I know that I'm gonna link to your last couple things you've done this week. I think you did a podcast on the subject. I know you wrote a blog on it. I absolutely loved your response. I'm going to link to that so everyone gets a chance to see it. And you mentioned, it was there were some swirly things coming through Moscow. I'm not going to say that. What'd you say? Not going to say it was a tornado, but there were some swirly things that deserve addressing. So what's been the result after the mayor posted this and heralded their inclusiveness and sort of attacked your perspective, the Bible's perspective on gender and things like that? I know that I heard that there was some vandalism or attempts of vandalism at Christchurch property.
Yes, and one of the restaurants that's owned and operated by one of our members on Main Street, it was vandalized, and then it wasn't major vandalism, but they pulled over a great big flower pot and dumped it out on the sidewalk in front of our church office.
Wow.
And as I said, I tweeted about that and said, I can't figure out how they figured out that was our memorial to Robert E. Lee.
Gosh, that's awesome. Well, any response? You even responded, I thought, clearly and graciously under the mayor's post and tried to help him to see. Any more responses from the city of Moscow or the mayor?
Well, we have several things going on right now because last Sunday, the irony of this is last Sunday, we at Christchurch, we have 3 services. We have a Christchurch downtown service, and then we have 2 services in the field house, Logos Field House. Well, we're preparing for the fall. The elders decided some time ago, independent of coronavirus and everything, that we wanted to have 2 services in the summer that was all the services together.
Yeah.
And which we did last Sunday. So we had one big service at the field house, and that was last Sunday. And then on Monday, we had the mayor come out with his statement against New St. Andrews ad. But within the same breath, basically, the mayor also issued a 7-day decree that everybody in Moscow has to wear a mask all the time. When you go out, you have to wear a mask.
Down the street?
Down the street. Basically, you have to wear a mask or maintain social distancing. So if you're standing out in the street all by yourself, you don't have to wear a mask. But if you interact with people, you've got to either wear a mask or distance. Well, this was pretty clearly aimed at our church service the day before. Well, the thing to notice about this is the juxtaposition. On the same day, Mayor Lambert said, you've got to bow to the transgender agenda so that we can feel safe. And you've got to wear masks all the time so that we can feel safe. Now that tells you that there's some sort of deep connection, I think, here, because they want to, as I've said many times, our culture wars are basically a battle over the dictionary. Okay, how are we going to define terms like safe? What do we? Who determines what is safe? Who determines what is not safe? Who determines what is unsafe? So Mayor Lambert says it's unsafe for us to not wear a mask because we might spread the virus. But he also says that it's unsafe for us to have boys go in the boys' room and girls go in the girls' room. Right?
Right.
That has to fit within his definition of unsafe as well.
Right.
Right. Right now, there's one other little wrinkle here that I think that Christians need to be careful to think through. We don't have at my house. We don't have separate bathrooms for men and women. It's just a common bathroom. And you may have been in restaurants where they've gone to unisex bathrooms, which I have no problem with because they're one-seaters, right?
Right.
The issue in all of this is when you have multiple stalls and a little 5-year-old girl going in, and then a 6'6" transvestite guy going in after her. That's the issue.
Right.
Okay. That's the issue. The issue is not nowhere in the Bible does it say that men and women have to use different potties.
Right. That's
Right.
exactly.
So the issue has to do with protecting women, not protecting space for men and space for women. It's protecting women from predatory men. That's what we're talking about.
That's right.
And the secularists don't want us to protect our women. Don't want us to be able to protect our women. That's what this is all about. Also, if you notice on this on the Me Too movement and on the Black Lives Matter movement, all of this has morphed over time into. I saw how quickly Black Lives Matter morphed into Black Trans Lives Matter.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And this is the most massive cultural appropriation of all time. Okay. White pervy men have co-opted the civil rights movement, feminism, every movement that has come before them, somehow winds up with their transsexual perversions. That's where this is all driving.
Wow. That's powerful thought. And Doug, thank you for that. That's actually very, very important to communicate that truth, that what this is really ultimately about is protecting women.
Yeah.
That's the main issue.
Yeah.
And we've already seen, of course, the news reports of little girls being attacked in bathrooms because they're welcoming this sort of a thing, and women being attacked in bathrooms. And I can't even imagine the things that we haven't seen in the public square as a result of these insane policies. But Doug, that's a good point, and I think that shows that kind of pastoral concern that the mayor of Moscow would probably want to hear about. That this is really about protecting women. Why is it the Christians wanting to protect the women? I thought we wanted to lower their status and sort of destroy them and put them under our feet.
Especially Doug, I've heard.
Oh yeah, Doug's that guy. And here's Doug saying, no, we want to protect the little girls and the women. Doug, can I ask you a question? I know you have to go here soon.
Sure.
On the video, they're as big as the people, it looks like, almost ginormous signs. Look, Luke, did you see it? See, ginormous.
Oh.
Yeah. Men, women. She's got a dress on. He didn't have a dress on. No. So she goes to see, she follows the sign with the dress right there. Right. Did you use CGI post conflict?
That's just the way it is. Big as life.
And it says in big bold letters, men, and then women. Like, it's huge. Not a small sign. You can't really miss it.
This is a reminder of what we all used to know.
Yes. Very much so. Anyway, I wanted to get you on, Doug, and thank you for your time today. Sorry about all the technical issues. And I wanted to show everyone this and to talk about this. I'm going to put links to the stuff you've done this last week. I thought it was amazing commentary. Yeah. And I want to encourage everybody. Doug's a good friend of ours. We love Doug, and he's someone that we greatly admire and respect. And Moscow, there's great things God has done in Moscow and continues to do in Moscow. But this is that conflict that must take place. Christ Church is a very, very faithful church. If you're in Moscow, head over to Christ Church. And if you have kids that are going to college, nsa.edu. Don't do the gov.
Not gov.
The gov will be.
And one last plug: if you're listening to this later today on Facebook, 3:30, a New St. Andrews is dropping another ad that this thing we've been talking about was one of a series. We're dropping another ad today on abortion and Black Lives Matter. And that ad is a throat punch.
Oh,
3:30. Okay, I'll make sure I turn my alarm on for that one. Good. Okay. All right, Doug, thank you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, brother.
God bless. Thank you.
God bless you, brother. Okay. All right. So there you go.
Oh man,
I love
I have on a number of occasions kind of chuckled to myself. You go into some of these restaurants or stores, you know, and they're like braggadocious about their unisex bathrooms, and you're like what Doug was saying though. It's like you only have one toilet in there, so what?
Right.
You know, but they're like, look at us, we got unisex potties.
Right. There's one.
Yeah. It's like, you didn't accomplish anything there.
That's not the fight we're trying to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Except the only problem is, and every woman that knows it's a unisex bathroom is, did they put the seat
Yeah, exactly.
up? Yeah, or did they put it back down again? And generally, when you do share bathroom between male and female, it creates some difficulties.
There's conflict there. Yeah.
There's conflict for the women. We all know what we're talking about. It's the sort of thing that I have to constantly chastise my young male children about.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you
August.
live... Well, not him. Not yet. I will. I'm sure one day I'm going to have to tell him, you live with women, you share the bathroom, love your neighbors, and make sure that...
I'm the only dude in my house, so...
Yeah. But I'm sure you've been...
nature.
You've been instructed. You will protect the seat.
Everywhere I go now, I just automatically, because it's ingrained.
Yes, you will protect the seat for the women. You will protect... See, what is it? All the Christian men that are trying to protect the seats for women and trying to protect women from the pervs. I like how he said the pervy white men. The pervy white men.
He's right, though.
He is right.
He is right.
He is right. I can't wait to see that new commercial.
Sanger, you know, she wasn't a man, but she was a perv.
Yeah.
And white, so...
That is true. Hey, I want to show you guys this. One of the things you will note from Doug, Doug's presuppositional apologist, so are we, and Doug does a fantastic job. One of the things I've always admired so much about Doug, where he's really helped me, is seeing how Doug is able to stand on that position from the Proverbs that says, answer the fool according to their folly. So Doug's taught me that a lot in terms of like being able to listen to what a person is saying and to look for the foundation that they're supposed to be standing on, but they're really not. Look for what they're forgetting, and that's been a tremendous help to me in terms of evangelism and apologetics in the world, is being able to spot that. And it's something that of course is taught, like you teach people. Proverbs it's 26, 4 and 5 says, don't answer the fool according to their folly, lest thou be like unto them, lest you be like them. And then it says, answer the fool according to their folly, lest they be wise in their own conceit. So there's the standing on your position and not budging. Don't be like the fool. Don't adopt their principles. Don't adopt their worldview, their methodology. But then there's the contrast in terms of methodology. We call it apologetic methodology, and that is where you do the internal critique of your opponent's position, where you answer them according to their folly. And one of the things that you'll constantly see in Doug in his blog, by the way, highly recommend Doug's weekly podcast and
blog and Mablog is incredible.
It is because here's the thing. Like I say, it's not something that's just taught; it's caught. Like you have to sort of like immerse yourself into the conversation and watch it done. That's, I think, one of the best ways to learn apologetics, and why you and I have always had the practice of recording conflict and then putting it up online so believers can learn from that. So, like, it's not just, here's the principle and always apply that. Some Christians are like, I don't know what you mean by that. But if they're seeing it in action, they go, oh, I get it now. I feel it. Doug is masterful, by God's grace, at doing that. And I want to play this because you see, in Doug's response to the mayor of Moscow, one of the things that he does is answer the fool according to his folly. He steps into his position. He shows the convoluted nature of it, so there's nothing left to stand on. And then he can come in with gospel truth right after that and show, like, and hold up. Now this is beautiful. What you're saying is not beautiful. It's not truth. This is beautiful, and this is true. Your position is bootleg. So this is actually one of my favorite parts of atheist Christian debate. This is something I don't even know when I actually heard this for the first time. I remember, though, the moment that I heard it, I was like, that is one of the most epic takedowns, because what the unbeliever does, I'm going to set this up for you, the unbeliever will always try to borrow emotional capital from the Christian worldview, use it against the Christian, and then and sort of, I have victory now, over the Christian, because I've appealed to emotions that I'm not really supposed to have. I don't have any basis for them, no justification for them, but the Christian does. So, I'll give you an example of how this will work in the unbelieving system. Take on the issue. I'm afraid to say the word now because YouTube is reading the words now, and they'll demonetize or suppress videos. You take on the issue of how you say in sign language, right? It's an A word. Take on that issue. They'll say things like, "Well, we should be allowed to have this. We should be able to commit murder like this because of the issue of rape. That's why.
Yeah.
Like, don't you? Well, what about a woman who is raped? Like that, she should be able to do this. So they'll take emotional capital that only really makes sense in the Christian worldview, like the idea that rape is a moral atrocity. In Scripture, there's a death penalty for rape. So that's you get that from Christianity, like that idea.
You're welcome.
So you're welcome for that. But they'll take the idea that rape is a moral atrocity that again you can have in their perspective or their worldview consistently, and they'll use it against the Christian who's trying to defend life, and they'll say, "What if she was raped?" And you just sort of have to step into that position and go, oh, Christian, that bothers a Christian because we hate rape. We think rape is a moral atrocity and deserves the death penalty. And so they use it against us and we're like, oh no, like rape, that's an awful, horrible thing. Yeah, it's terrible. She's got to be hurt and that's got to be an awful experience. But remember, they're not supposed to have that. But also step into their position, ask questions like, well, what makes rape wrong? Like you apparently think rape is wrong. Why is it wrong? And they'll say, well, it's violating another person's body. It's doing something to their body against their own will. Nobody should have a right to do that to somebody's body without their permission. Oh, very good pro-life argument. Thank you for that. So it's stepping into their position and showing the inconsistency of it and saying things like, well, okay, so rape is wrong. Do you believe that rapists deserve the death penalty? And it's amazing. You talk to most leftists today and you ask them the question, do you believe that rapists deserve the death penalty? They'll say no. In my experience, largely, you're not going to find many leftists that are saying they're for the death penalty in the first place,
right?
But especially for rape. They're like, no, put them in jail for this long or that long or whatever the case may be. But if you challenge them and say, okay, so for rape, do you at least believe in the death penalty for the rapist? They'll say, well, I'm not really for the death penalty. Oh, but you do believe in it for the kid.
Yep.
So you believe in capital punishment, not for the rapist, but for the child, the innocent child who's the son of the criminal. So we, in your system, should actually kill the children of criminals for the crimes of the father. That's your system. Do you see how this works? But they start it with the emotional pull, right? Oh, rape. And you go, yeah, that's mine. Like we get to say that's an atrocity. That's a moral evil, not you. But separate in the position. So all that to say, Dan Barker has, we've had him on Apologia Radio before, and early on in our history.
He's a real peach.
I think one of our intros actually has Dan Barker admitting that rape isn't ultimately wrong. Ultimately, there is no cosmic right or wrong. So he admits that as an atheist, but he doesn't act like that in debate. He uses a lot of emotional capital from the Christian worldview. So one of his chestnut arguments is he uses the passage from the Psalms that talks about dashing the children against the rocks. Well, he used it against Doug. Big mistake.
This is good.
Yeah, big mistake. So Doug turns it around on him by stepping into his position. So I wanted you guys to hear it because it's an important one. I'll make sure I don't have this blast your ears out. Okay, here we go. And
I'd like to ask, I guess, first, if you have an objection to what God said in the Psalms when he commanded the Israelites to take the enemies of God and take the babies and dash them against the rock.
Yes, I do. That was immoral. That was wrong on objective moral principles.
So it's wrong to take an infant's life for any reason?
Well, it's... it is wrong to take a baby in your hands and pick it up and throw it against the rocks. That is wrong. That's what happened in there.
Suppose President Clinton approved it.
Well, then that would be wrong, of course, to pick up a child and throw it against the rocks.
Okay, now take the same baby, put the baby in the womb. Is there an objective moral response? Is there an objective moral objection to taking the life of an infant?
Yes, of a born viable infant, yes there is. Are we debating abortion tonight?
Well, no, you were objecting to God being pro-choice. And you introduced the whole subject, and you said God can't take the innocent human life, but we can. Is that the idea?
Well, regardless of whether you think it's right or wrong, if you think it's wrong to commit abortion, then you also have to agree that it's wrong for God to do what he did.
No, I don't grant that.
You think it was right? Oh, you're supposed to ask the question.
Go ahead. Absolutely. I refer back. I think it's a legitimate question. God said in the Scripture that the people of God, when they were when they were doing this were blessed when they conquered the enemies of God, and the one who took the children of the enemies of God and dashed them on the rock was blessed by God. That's in the Bible, and I have no apologies for it.
And you think that's good morality? You think that's not a cruel thing to do? You think that's a good thing to do?
God is the definition of good. And because God, as the definition of God is, since we begin all our reasoning from this position, we reason from what God says to our morality. Now, my question for you is, if you object to God doing this, and He is God, and then you deny His existence or deny any satisfactory proof for His existence, on what possible grounds can you object to this sort of behavior?
Because physical harm is undesirable. It hurts. The basis of morality is that which causes harm is something, that which causes unnecessary harm is something which we should avoid.
Inside the womb or out?
Either way. It's not my, I'm not a woman. I'm not going to make that choice. But either way, even if I feel that abortion is wrong, I don't feel that it's right for me to impose that on a woman. A woman's going to make that choice.
Yeah, but the nervous system involved, the baby who's being slaughtered, has a different nervous system than the woman, and you've said that pain to human beings, to innocent human beings, is objectionable, and I want to know why you think it's objectionable.
Because we are human beings, and our nature is that we don't, we flee from pain. Pain is useful to us for survival, so pain is by definition something that we want to avoid, and so morality is basically wrapped up in the avoidance of unnecessary harm. Sometimes harm is necessary. Sometimes there is a real moral decision comes not from a simplistic list of do this or don't do this. A real moral dilemmas come when you have a conflict of positive values. It's no big deal to say, should I stab you or shouldn't I, right? But the big deal is what are the relative merits of the positive values involved. So sometimes a surgeon, for example, suppose I were to walk up to you with a knife and start cutting into your body. That would be immoral, unethical, and I'd probably go to jail for it, right?
Right. Unless I was a baby.
Unless you had a tumor within you. If you had a tumor within you that needed to be excised, then this cutting into you would be deemed a good thing. It would be causing harm, but it would be a necessary harm for a greater good. So morals are relative. Morals are relative to the situation, and there are situations where a woman may decide for herself that she knows this is not a child within her. She knows it's not a baby. This woman knows that this is a developing fetus, and she's deciding, and most women who do have abortions really struggle over the thing, but she's deciding as she's weighing the life of her 6 kids who are born who need her, she's weighing the relative merits, and she's making a decision. I'm satisfied
that you have not answered this question. I'd like to ask him.
What do you mean I've answered it?
I'm satisfied that you've not answered this one. It's amazing too. Think about what you have to catch in those little moments where the unbeliever hangs themselves. Just that moment where he says, she knows this isn't a baby within her. She knows that. And he goes, but a lot of women really struggle with this. Why?
Right.
Why mention that?
Right.
She knows it's not a baby, so she can dispose of this life.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of women really struggle with this. Why do they struggle with it?
Exactly.
If they know it's not a baby. You see how he contradicts himself? You just have to sort of wait for the unbeliever to get enough rope to just hang themselves. She knows it's not a baby. She knows that. She's just a developing fetus. Fetus is Latin for baby. It's a developing baby. But then he goes, what women really struggle with this? Well, which one do I believe, Mr. Barker? Which one do I believe? That they know it's not a baby or that they really struggle with it? Well, we all know they really struggle with it because they're moms and it's their baby.
They use a noose to hang themselves that's also used to open a garage door.
Do what?
Did you not see that?
No.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe you missed that.
No, what's going on?
Okay, so this was last week. We didn't have a show last week because we had a lot going on, but that race car driver, you didn't see that? Bubba
I heard
Watson?
something about what happened.
So he... I can't believe this is. Oh my gosh. So apparently, now they know what happened. But there's a pulley. He's a race car driver, and open the garage door. There's a rope, and it has a loop on the end. I mean, it's a little loop with the rope. There's a picture where the rope's there, and then the rope's gone. And apparently, his team, the rope broke off, and they found it in his garage. And I think he's mixed race, but he's black, and so everybody's like, this someone threw a noose in here.
Someone's threatening him.
It's racism. Like, it was this big deal. Like, everybody's like supporting him. Like, all the race car drivers literally pushed his car around the track, you know, all this stuff. And they got the FBI involved. And the FBI came back and was like, yeah, no, it was your thing. And then they were like, oh, sorry, everyone. Sorry, it wasn't what we thought it was.
All those guys that wore themselves out pushing that car were like, say what?
Oh my gosh, it's funny. What I was gonna say was one thing I love about Doug. I think he's good. It's almost like remember like candid camera, like
candid camera.
Yeah, like
yeah.
It's almost like whenever Doug's in a debate or like he's, you know, blogging or whatever. It's like he like leads someone along the way and then like has that moment where it's like, nope, you're on candid camera.
You're on candid camera. I got you.
Like,
oh,
like,
yeah.
And sometimes, you know, like that time with Barker, like everybody's laughing. It's like, so it kind of makes me think of that. Like, he's good at that. Like these gotcha moments. So.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The internal critique.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and cut the show short today.
Let's talk about Ken and Karen real quick.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, let's do that. Go ahead.
I forgot. I just remembered. So you know that obviously.
I've only seen the pictures, and I know they were defending their property.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're. Oh man, and they're Democrats, which makes it even better.
Are they really?
Yeah, I just learned that yesterday. Yeah. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, there was a situation, I believe it was in Oregon, I think, where the mayor, or some people had written letters to the mayor saying, you know, we need to defund the police and all this. And the mayor, I didn't see the video because it got taken down, but apparently the mayor read these letters and somehow she made it known who these people were and what their addresses were that wrote these letters in. So needless to say, a mob, a Black Lives Matter mob, Antifa, whoever they were, they actually were being peaceful from what I understand. There's no weapons, but they come into this, it's a gated community. So they're going to the mayor's house to protest her. It's a gated community. And so that's when the Ken and Karen people, that were the first house when you walk in. So there's this mob of people walking down the street, and then you know they come out barefoot. They're injury lawyers,
okay,
and Democrats, and they come out with very, very poor
trigger discipline.
I
did see that. She had her finger on the trigger.
And she's just waving it around.
Ooh, no, don't do that.
And I guess I didn't catch it. Somebody zoomed in. He had the safety off of his AR, you know, so they're barefoot with the pink polo.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like yelling everybody to get off the lawn.
Isaac, you can show everyone what's on my screen right here. I love the meme. Did Brian make it?
His buddy made it.
I came here to cut grass.
He sent it to me, though.
And drop brass. And the mowing is done. Ken and Karen.
Oh, man, I love it. So I just had I'm loving stuff like that.
I don't know the details around it, but I would say that in light of current circumstances, these mobs and all the riots and all the looting that's going on, if a crowd came down my street, started making their way towards my house or past my house, I'd probably be armed and ready to defend my property. I'd definitely have trigger discipline, though.
Yeah, you would. Yeah,
for
you're
sure.
not going to be waving it around.
With finger on the trigger, waving the gun around. It's like, Karen.
She's clearly never shot that thing.
Yeah.
She
don't do that.
Doing. I saw somebody made like a fake movie poster for it with it. That's when I first saw it. I literally thought it was fake. I thought somebody like posed for it and they were like making this thing, and then Cheryl, my wife, was like, no, that really happened. I was like, shut up. So I had to go watch the actual video and stuff. But they named him like Ken and Karen Chad Bro.
My recommendation in a situation like that is if you have a mob running through your street or a crowd of people, and you know it wouldn't be wrong to as they're making their way towards your fence or past your fence to be ready with a weapon, to have it on standby and ready to go. If people aren't making a threat towards you or at you and coming into your yard, or I don't think it's appropriate in any way to start waving your gun their direction.
Well, that's a felony.
Yeah, you can't wave you can't wave a gun someone's direction that's not a threat to you. And also finger on the trigger, guys. If you know anything about guns, most of you probably do. You put your finger on the trigger, that's a commitment to kill, right? So like that's the rule, right? Trigger discipline is finger off that trigger unless when you put it over the trigger, you are making a mental commitment that I am ready to kill. I'm ready to use deadly force, because that's what a gun is. So I would say for sure, if you're in your yard, definitely you have the right to protect your property. Having a weapon on standby is good, but but pointing the gun at protesters just simply walking by, not a wise choice, not a good decision. And get your finger off the trigger, Karen.
Yeah. And to close out the show, Chunk is gone now. So
Chunk,
they're
Chop,
done.
Chaz, Fudge. Chunk, Chop, Chaz, Fudge.
But you made a good point about this.
Yeah. The mayor.
Yeah.
The mayor of Seattle was like, oh, it'll be the summer of love. It'll be the summer of love. It's an amazing thing. And like all these businesses, and I imagine there's probably residents and apartments in there. I don't know anything about Chop, Chaz, Chunk, or Fudge, whatever the place is. But all those people suffering for all those weeks.
Yeah.
Right. And I heard that those businesses are filing a lawsuit now against the state. They should be.
They should be.
They absolutely should be, because you didn't try to protect us. You
Yeah.
didn't do anything. We lost all this business and our livelihoods, whatever the case is, whatever's going on there. I'm sure people live there. But they didn't do anything. And the mayor was like, oh, it'll be this great thing, a summer of love. And, they're just peaceful protesters. Well, my understanding is that when they started actually making way to her house, then she labels them as dangerous. And it was like within 24 hours, it was like, no, we're clearing you out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, when you're affected.
Exactly.
So it's just it's the same situation with these sleazebags, these sleazebag politicians that are just career politicians. They're not citizens that are trying to represent the people and the interests of the people in law. We know this world. There are fraudulent people in these positions. And you've got like the Chicago mayor that's like, everybody stay home. Beetlejuice, we'll take you and we'll throw you in jail. We'll treat you like a criminal and stay home, stay home, stay home. It's easy to say that when you're getting paid.
Yeah.
You haven't, did you stop taking a paycheck for all these weeks? Bet you didn't.
She got her hair cut, too.
And then she says, like, stay home, you have no right to do this. And she's getting her hair cut. And then when she's challenged on it in front of the public, in the public square, her only response is this absolutely asinine response where she says, well, I take my personal hygiene very seriously, and I'm in the public eye. I need to look good, sort of a thing. It's like, do you hear yourself talking? Like, up here, I need to look good. I need to make sure I take care of myself. But you lowly peasants, you have no concern for your personal hygiene, and you don't need to look good. Right. I need to look good. And let me just say, if you were trying to look good, you failed.
Take off the Beetlejuice makeup.
Can I be straight about that? Like, there's just certain things we all notice, and I wouldn't have even noticed that she had a haircut.
Yeah.
But apparently she did. Somebody caught her doing it. But I guess my point is that I guess why say all these things and why say it in such a harsh way? Well, we have to say these things in a harsh way because of the times that we live in. It's not the time to just simply play nice with people's lives. People's lives are at stake. They're being destroyed by career politicians that don't have the interests of the community in mind. They don't care about the law. They don't even know the law.
Yeah.
Like if you ask them, like, who makes laws in this country? Supreme Court? They'd be like, yeah, I think so. They wouldn't even know that.
We've actually learned that.
Yeah, we learned that. Many legislators don't know the Supreme Court can't create law. They don't know. They're career politicians. Look, it's not that difficult. I mean, there's certain hard things about it. It's not that difficult to get on a ballot and to start getting something running.
Yeah.
So just because somebody gets to the position of mayor or governor or whatever the case may be doesn't mean that they understand the law completely or that they're really qualified for that position. Some people get into that position because they had enough money to do it.
We're talking about Joe Biden?
Yeah. Some people, no, it's true. Like it's in the way they get into this position because they have enough money to really kickstart it. And many people in the communities, all they know is like, I saw that name on a sign a bunch of times, and that's my color. It's red or it's blue. I saw it enough, and that's what they're looking for at times too. Like when you get a mailer, politicians put a mailer in the mail. They just want you to have the 10 seconds from the mailbox to the door where you just saw the name. So that the name is burned into your brain. You may not know anything about the person. All you know is like, oh, that person, I've seen the name, and they're my color. So on the ballot, you click that box. Doesn't mean the person's qualified or that they have any right to be there. But that's just the way that our country works right now. And we got to speak against it. But my point is these governors, mayors, these officials, legislators need to be called out, confronted, and confronted, of course, in a righteous way with a righteous standard, which is God's law. And we ought to be doing that because, if you're living, say, pick a place. You came from a nice little town. Well, Chicago was obviously
Yeah.
difficult, and you have
in Indiana.
And but it was, what was the name of your city?
Griffith.
Griffith, Indiana, nice place. It is a nice place. It's a lot of families, and you're in a place like that. Maybe you're not feeling the pinch of all this tyranny that, say, people in Chop, Chaz, Fudge, and Chunk were feeling. You're not feeling it like them. And if you're in South Dakota right now, you're probably not feeling much of anything.
Yeah.
Like, a good governor cares about the Constitution there. But my point is like Christians, you have to speak against this sort of sin and tyranny, or it only escalates.
Right.
And it grows because the Christian witness and light is removed from the darkness. And so you do have to speak against it. And you do need to call out something like the mayor of Chicago's statements that are just so offensive.
Yeah.
And the mayor of Seattle. Is that the right? I think that's the right person. Mayor of Seattle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The fact that she does nothing to protect these people and these businesses, and then all of a sudden, when it starts to come close to home, literally, we're going to finally say something.
Yeah. Well, how about our governor?
Ducey.
I don't know. Did you watch his press conference?
Which the most recent one?
Yeah. So he put us back into phase 1, which is just, it's just stupid. It's him. This is talking about career politicians. It's clear he's just covering his backside.
Yeah.
Because it makes it look like he's doing something. But then when you actually look at stuff, what he's actually saying and the rules and everything, it's like, you're not really doing anything. You're just making it look like you're doing something.
Right.
But the thing that made me really upset as I started watching his press conference, and just right off the bat, he says something like, I know we're asking a lot of our people. I know we're asking you to. It's like, no. You're not asking. You're telling.
Right.
You're not asking people. You're telling people.
Without the force of law, by the way.
Yeah. You are telling businesses, which kudos to Mountain Fitness or whatever.
Mountainside Fitness.
Yeah. Who's standing up against that. But, you're telling people that they can't work and that they can't operate their businesses that they need to survive because of some stupid, awful quarantine thing that doesn't do anything. And so I don't know if you saw my post. It reminded me of when we were a kid. I played a game called Kick the Can. I don't know if you ever played when you're a kid, but the point is like it's like he's just kicking this further down the road.
Right.
It's like
COVID-19 is here.
It's just you just keep kicking it. It's like, okay, we're gonna quarantine a little bit longer. It's like, guess what? When you unquarantine, there's gonna be, and you start mass testing again, you're gonna start seeing
more.
Yeah. But you're not just. It's not just a game, right? That's what I was saying. Like, it's not just a game. You're actually playing with people's livelihoods, and that's where I think finally people in Arizona are had enough and are fed up. But
well, you're right. That's the point. Is that people's livelihoods. It's a big deal to shut your business down, not be able to feed your kids.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal. And the thing that I've said since the beginning of this is like I'll have more respect for the politicians, the governors, the mayors, whatever the case may be, who say I'm not going to take a paycheck either.
Yeah.
Through this, but they're not doing that.
No.
I'm not going to take a paycheck as long as I'm telling you to quarantine, to stay home, and to not work and risk your family's financial situation. As long as I'm telling you to do that, I'm going to do it as well. Yeah. I would actually say, okay, I think some of the things you're doing are ignorant, but hey, kudos to you for trying to be consistent and like live with your community and do what's right. At least you're trying to be consistent, but you don't see that. These people continue to get paid. Yep. They continue to feed themselves and to care for their needs, and then they're telling all the lowly peasants, "You guys, don't worry about your businesses. Don't worry about shutting down. Right. If you got to suffer, you got to suffer. You know what I mean?" And it's like while they're it's like what's it? Grandma Goo does the thing where she does this live video where she opens up these uber expensive refrigerators. She has, and then she shows like all the delicious ice cream she has at the bottom of her thing. She's like, I'm really suffering at home. It's like, yeah, sure you are in your expensive home with your expensive kitchen, your expensive fridges, while everybody else is suffering. They're supposed to suffer, but yeah, you're really suffering. I'd like to spend a week in her house, not with her there. No, I don't want her to be there, but I'd love to spend a week in her house. I'm sure it'd be a great Airbnb rental.
Yeah, exactly.
Be a lot of fun. But I mean, it's difficult. I guess we are going to go do a full show today.
Might as well.
So the issue with like COVID-19 and coronavirus right now, look, we want to be cautious how we say this because we want to respect people, and we understand that people have loved ones who have significantly suffered from this. We've said from the very beginning, it's a very serious illness.
Yeah.
It's not a hoax. The virus is not a hoax. The virus is real. It's a real virus. People are really dying from it. But the mortality rate is so low that it is comparable to or less than things that we deal with on an annual basis. And consistency would say, if you're going to shut the world down and destroy everybody's lives because of this, you're going to have to do it again in November, December, and January when we're dealing with the other issues. That's not saying this is the flu. No, it's not the flu. It's COVID-19. Right. But we looked at the mortality rate, and early on, the big concern with all the governors and mayors and all the media was the mortality rate. Like, this is the thing that scares us. This is a serious issue. And so, this thing gets pushed further and further down the road. All of a sudden, people start saying, well, we're going to die. And people are literally dying from being shut down like this. And so we got to open up. And look, the mortality rate's not as high as you said it was. Why are we shutting down like this? And so everyone goes, yeah, we need to open up. And we'll do it with caution. And everyone says, yeah, that's fine. We'll do it. We'll care for each other, be protective, and do what we can. And then they open back up again, and then all of a sudden they go, oh my gosh, the COVID-19 cases are out of this world. They're rising. And it's like, because you're doing all the testing, because everybody's doing all the testing.
And you made us stay inside when we should have been out.
And they're they're demonstrating clearly, and this has been admitted by the organizations themselves. We're talking about CDC and other organizations, that the COVID testing, the rates of positive are actually inaccurate. They're inaccurate. Now, when that data is there, look, they're admitting, the COVID testing stuff, it says positive, but the accuracy in that is lower than we thought it would be. So you got to take all those things and say, wow. So what you have as numbers of COVID-19 positive cases is rising because, of course, the virus is here. It's going to spread. There's no way out of it. There is no way out of it. Like Luke says, you're kicking this thing further down the road. You're going to have this virus spread. And I hate to say that, but it's got to make it. I'm not saying, hey, everybody, let's go ahead and get it. I'm saying there's no way out of it now. It's here. It's here to stay. It's going to work its way through. There's just no way out of that. That is a scientific fact. You could talk about, well, let's flatten the curve. You can only do that through just basic protections, but you're not going to erase this thing and not have it as a reality by having everybody shut their businesses down, go back, hide in their homes again. Right. It just doesn't work that way. And then when you look at all the cases, you're like, well, because everybody is testing now, and you go, oh, but even the cases that we have, many of those are just false, not really positive. And you go, my goodness, what are we doing? What are we doing to our neighbors by destroying their lives, their livelihoods for this? Now, you've heard us talk about this. We had a sermon to the governor, to Doug Ducey. I said, this is serious. We need to take it seriously, but we need to love our neighbor as the primary thing. That has to be first and foremost, and it's all of our neighbors. If this were something like, say, the Spanish flu, or if it was something like the Black Plague, if we're talking about losing 1 out of every 3 human beings in our state, you're going, whoa, this thing is serious. It affects everybody the same way. Whether you're young or old, it's going to hit you the same way. We've got to do something and protect, but even still, you got to say, but we don't want to destroy the whole world because of it. So you have to be very precise and wise. In this case, it's admitted. Yeah. It's admitted that this affects this population in our country, and everybody goes, okay, so let's protect those people. That's what you should be saying. Let's do everything we can as a community to surround these people with proper social distancing, and love them and protect them most of all, right? Let's take all resources and protect those people, the ones that are most affected by this. That would be a sane, a rational way of handling this, to say, hey, everybody in America right now, let's get our country back. And let's protect the people who need us most. Let's give them food. Let's invest money in their protection. Let's do everything we can. And let's zero our sights in. I bet you all these companies that have lost millions through this would go, I'm in for that. Let's open back up and I'll invest all the millions that I would have lost into protecting that community. Let's send them food. Let's do whatever it takes to protect them instead of destroying the whole lot of us. I think that's a more rational, wise, loving thing to do when you have the data that specifically says, yeah, it's a fact, it affects these people over here. Right. Elderly, immune system's compromised. But question, why'd you destroy the rest of society? That's the question that has to be asked. And especially in this case now, Luke, Ducey says, and this is the thing that got me, and of course Mountainside Fitness said this, they said, so you picked fitness clubs and tubing? Like the Salt River? First of all, listen, I'm going to say this. Anybody who is tubing in the Salt River has an immune system of steel because we call that poo-poo river. Because listen, I'm gonna make sure everyone understands this.
There's a lot of brown trout.
There's a lot of brown trout in that river. And here's the deal: like I got invited. I went to Salt River one time in my life.
Yeah.
I will never go back. Have you ever gone?
Nope.
Don't.
I don't plan on it.
Because let me just say, my experience of going to Salt
I know
River.
it goes on
Nobody told me. No one told me. They were like, "Hey, let's go tubing down Salt River. It's such a blast. Everyone loves it." I'm like, "Great." So you get on the tube, and no one tells me that you're going to float down this thing for 4.5 hours. I'm like, I'm an hour in. I'm like, okay, when's the thing end? And they're like, oh, no, we haven't even begun the trip. And I'm like, what? And there's like 1 million people, and people like created this like rafts together, and they're like blasting music. And
they float their coolers.
I look over, I'm sorry, this is going to get a bit, this is a revelation, but okay, just imagine. Okay. I look over at my friend like 2 hours in, and he's sitting in the donut, right? He's acting kind of weird and squirrely, and I'm like, what are you doing? And what do you think he was doing?
Going to the bathroom.
He was using because you have to use the bathroom. You're floating down the river for 4.5 hours. You got to use the bathroom.
There's a lot of beer being consumed.
Where are you going to use the bathroom? And I was only like 19 or 20 at the time, and my friend is using the bathroom. He said, gotta go, and so he's using the bathroom, and it's not number one. And he's floating down. So all that to say, anybody who spends time in Salt River and tubing, you've got an immune system of steel.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You're not getting COVID.
Nothing is penetrating. If you spend time there, nothing's going to kill you because you are immune to everything. You've worked at your immune system is amazing.
You have a better chance of catching an STD than you do COVID.
That's true. But here's the deal. So what have we been told about COVID-19? In terms of, especially Arizona, we're like one of the most blessed states.
Yeah.
Because when it's 111 degrees outside, they've said COVID-19, like it has a certain like lifespan that where it can hang out in that kind of heat and that kind of sunlight. So when you know that, like, why are you picking the tubing? Like, why are you picking that thing when you got all this sunlight, all this heat? I mean, it's just, it's something that you go, why that? And people are asking that, like, why'd you just randomly, arbitrarily pick tubing and then fitness clubs with no evidence that, like, the coronavirus is spreading because of the fitness clubs? The deal is, I guarantee you this, and this is what we said about church, those fitness clubs that are opening up, like they're saying, look, we are having all these extra sanitizing stations. We're doing these cleaning things constantly. People are even wearing masks. We've reorganized the whole club where there's massive social distancing. You are guaranteed to be, quote, safer from COVID-19 spread in that club than you would be at Walmart or Home Depot or Costco or whatever the case may be. But he randomly arbitrarily picks, I'll pick this one, this one, this one. Why? So it looks like he's doing something when in reality what I like to see is the courage of the governor in South Dakota where she's
threw her a parade.
Yeah, she's just saying, look, it's serious. Take precautions. Everyone be smart. Everyone be safe. But with the numbers that we see right now, we realize we can't destroy everyone's lives because of this. And the Constitution matters. Yeah. It matters. And people's freedom matters. And we can't sacrifice freedom for security and safety. And in this case, she's trying to say the balance is looking at the data we know about COVID, what's a fact, and then going, yeah, I can't destroy my state because of that. Mm-hmm. That's a wise governor. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see a governor, a mayor, a sheriff, I know I've seen some, stand up and just simply say, I'm not buying it. Like, I see through the inconsistencies, and I will not destroy the lives of my people as a result of this. And I think what Doug should have done, Governor Ducey should have done, is he should have basically pushed back against the narrative that the media is spinning. It goes from death rate, mortality, to high coronavirus cases. He should have just pushed back against that and just spoke the truth about all the data and said, ultimately, look, what do we want to do? Do we want to be dealing with coronavirus in December? Like, you want to be dealing with the same shutdown in December or January or February? Because if you don't, we've got to start opening now. Mm-hmm. We've got to start opening now. We've got to start loving our neighbors, protecting one another, of course, but opening up now so that we can deal with this thing, which is already here. It's already spreading among us. There's no way. It's like everyone lives in a fantasy. Yeah. Like somehow, if we all stay home, coronavirus is going to be erased. It can't be. Not at this point. It's spread.
Yeah.
And it's got to get. It's going to make its way through the population.
Yep.
Many people, and I'm of this persuasion, believe that it was here longer than we initially thought.
I absolutely agree.
And that many more people already had this, and that's being confirmed with the evidence as well. That many people didn't even realize they had it, and so that's something to consider.
Yeah. Before we close, did you see Rand Paul destroy Fauci the other day?
I did.
Pretty epic.
That was pretty epic. You can always
I'm
depend
not
on...
an expert on this. Like, no, that's what everybody's saying. They said you're the expert.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. In the end, our concern is loving all of our neighbors. That's our concern.
Yep, exactly.
In the midst of this, it's saying love the neighbors who are affected by coronavirus, COVID-19, love them well, and then love everybody else too. They matter as well. Matter a lot. All right, guys, apologiastudios.com is where you guys go to get more. Make sure you guys sign up for all access. Go to endabortionnow.com to get your church signed up. And can we share that? I'm gonna read that to everybody. So before we leave, I want to give you this really, really encouraging message that we just received. So in light of us saying endabortionnow.com, go there, sign up your church. Check this out. Kelly said, "Hello, Apologia. Just wanted to update you on where we are now after your generous gift over a year ago that got us started. When you sign up with your church, we send you out training and kits and everything you need to do this, and we don't ask for anything from you. It's all from us to you and to help you, and we have ongoing training and support as well." She says this, about 44 babies saved, and 3 moms repented and believed the gospel off the sidewalk. How you like that? How amazing that is that, guys? A little over a year ago, this group signs up. 44 babies saved through this one group.
Amazing.
Praise God. So we want you to get started as well. We want to help you. We don't want anything from your church. We want your church to go out and start saving lives. We're prepared to support you, to give you training, resources, all that's necessary to do this work. You go to endabortionnow.com to sign up, and that starts the whole process, and we'll be behind you guys the whole way. That's one church, 44 children.
Amazing.
In 1 year. And three women that came to Christ.
Praise God.
Should you be doing this? Yes,
Absolutely.
You should be doing this. All right, guys, that's Luke the Bear.
Peace out.
I'm Jeff the Coleman and Ninja. We'll catch you next week right here on Apologia Radio.